Hey there, welcome back out to Culture Redneck Garage. Hey, listen, today we're going to talk a little bit about Volkswagen pressure plates, throwout bearings, and their differences, and how to adapt them, and maybe even a little hack to help you get through some of the adapting process. So stick with us and we will go over those differences. Well, when you get to playing with Volkswagen stuff, whether it be for sand rails, dune buggies, even beetles themselves, you're going to find that there's a lot of little idiosyncrasies to some of the parts that will mate up with each other, and the years that they did this and the years that they changed this and so on and so forth. And you're for sure going to find that is the case when it comes to pressure plates and throwout bearings. Now, I just recently looked on the Samba, which is an internet site, really good forum, and there was a topic, I think the title was clutches. What pressure plate goes with which throwout bearing? And there were 18 pages in just that topic of that forum going on with that question. So it's an area where there's some confusion. So I'm sure somebody's made a video somewhere along the way explaining these differences and differences in the transaxles where they changed that thing. So I may not be telling anybody anything they don't know, but then again, maybe there's something I can articulate that they had before. So I'm going to do my best to show you sort of what pressure plates go with certain year transmissions and throwout bearings, when they swap them, and even a little trick that not everybody knows about here towards the end of the video. So let's talk real quickly about some Volkswagen transaxle history. Now, I have two IRS transaxle here. I do not have a swing axle specimen here with me in my garage. I do own one, but it's just not here. It won't be a whole lot different than this guy right here. So Volkswagen made swing axles up through 1968. And then in 69 they transitioned to an IRS transaxle where you had these two side covers and then IRS axles out the side. A few things changed here and there in the internals, not a ton, but it did carry over the exact same throwout bearing and pressure plate, which we will, is the main thing for this video, we'll talk about here in a minute. So from 69 to 1970 they had this guy, and in 71 they made a transition where they changed the throwout bearing style. They, in my opinion, improved it, and they went with a different pressure plate that made it up with that throwout bearing. So, and we'll of course discuss that too. They kept dual side cover IRS from 71 through 72. Now, they did transition to a single side cover in 73. Now, I've got a specimen right here I will show you. This one is from 1975, which in my opinion is probably the best case that they made for the Type 1 Volkswagen, which would be the Beetle player. It does have a single side cover, but the 73 and 74s would have looked similar to this, except it did not have this ridge right here. In 75 they went with this ridge, which really protected the case and kept it from cracking a lot more. It was probably the strongest design that they had, and they carried that up through, and I can't remember, I may be mistaken, maybe 78. I don't know, I can't remember it right off the top of my head when VW stopped that. But anyways, that is your three cases. There are lots of little changes here and there. So that's a brief history of transaxle cases. Now, let's talk about throwout bearings. All right, well, here's a little bit closer view of the differences in these up close. Now, like I said, from 1970 on down, you have this style, oops, got a little magnet there. We have this style throwout bearing, in that style cross shaft, I think that's what you call that. And they carried that down all the way into the swing axles and even on down into the 6 volts, those years there. So that's that style, and it goes with a specific pressure plate. You'll see right here we've got a pressure plate that has a ring on it. You see that? That ring will ride on that style throwout bearing. Okay? And like I said, in 1971 they went, let me take this off, I've got a brand new fresh Sachs throwout bearing. Let me just compare these two here. Okay, old style 70 on down, new style throwout bearing, that would be 71 and up. And what improvement they did, they made an improvement here in this guide. Now I'm missing my my input shaft right there because this transaxle's naked, but it was made, they put these 3 bolts in here, these and nuts to put this shaft on, and what it was made to do was this thing to slide in and out and actuate this style pressure plate. So here's a quick comparison. Early ring, early throwout bearing, late throwout bearing, no ring. Okay, now this is a stock, I think this was made in Brazil. It's got some markings from Brazil. It's 200 millimeter pressure plate. That was when you had your 12 volt systems, that's when that was made. And this guy right here would have been similar to what would have been, this is not technically a stock, this is a Kennedy Stage 2, which is a very heavy pressure plate, and it's made for big motors, and it'll tear up things inside if you don't have better internals. One thing worth mentioning also is the fact that in the change of the throwout bearing also comes with a change in the cross shaft design. In other words, if you find that you have an early style transaxle without this collar right here, without that, if yours is like that without it, you will have this design here, and it is a smaller diameter. Say Volkswagen, a lot of times they did a they improved things as they went. Doesn't mean that this was a bad design. I ran this exact transmission right here for years in my Sanrail. So that's a 16 millimeter shaft. It went up in size and got a little bit stronger. So roughly 20 millimeters. So that definitely made it stronger. So that's worth mentioning there. One other quick thing to mention along the way is with the change in the cross shaft diameter, they also made some changes in this lever here. You can see this is quite a bit of a little more thin of a design, a little thin casting. This is a lot more beefy, and you know, that definitely helped it there. And also, I'll also say that these cross shafts, not only because of the diameter, but because of the design, the way this sits on here. You see this throwout bearing kind of sits inside of the cross shaft bar right there, and of course rotates back and forth. You can see that. That is a different design than this guy right here. Of course, I've got these clips on it, so I can't really show you a whole lot. But all it does is it rides right on the edge. If those clips are gone, it'll ride right on that ledge right there. So, if you find that you have to update some things, these shafts aren't compatible with each other, if that makes any sense. Now let's just say that you have maybe a swing axle or an early IRS that has this style throwout bearing and does not have this guide with it from the factory, and you've got, say, an engine a little bit beefier, and you want this design, you want that that guide, and you want this style pressure plate. They do make a kit to where, and I don't have a great view of this, but you know, this input shaft is riding on a seal. They do make a kit where you can pop that seal out and stick a guide in that does not have this triangulated bolt pattern, and it will press right into there, allowing you to then use that style with this. And I am going to show a picture of that kit right now. Custom One Warehouse, I think, carries that, and so if I can, I'll put a link down below in the comments or the description section. That way, if you find yourself wanting to do that, you can do it. But like I said, there's nothing really wrong with this design. People still run this all the time. I just personally like this. All right, now I want to show you a comparison here sideways. It's only natural to ask the question, why in the world can I swap one pressure plate for the other? What does it really matter? I'm going to give you a little side-by-side view here, and I hope you can see this. And we're going to bring our little channel straight edge here for the best visual I can give you on that. Now, I'm hoping in the camera you can see a gap. So there is a gap there where this ring no longer exists. Let me measure this ring for you. Now physically, if you were to take the late pressure plate and try to put it on here with your, let's just say it was on your motor, it physically will fit in there, and the spline will touch the throwout bearing. But the issue is going to be in the thickness of the ring. Our ring has a thickness of roughly 7.5 millimeters. So if you have this on your motor and made it up to this guy right here, you're going to be minus at least that 7.5 millimeters. So while you are extending your throwout bearing, there's just that much area it can't make up. And so what will happen is you will touch your pressure plate, but it'll be very shallow. And what will end up happening is it's a condition where your clutch is just not disengaging enough from the flywheel, and you just won't be able to shift this thing worth the flip. It'll grind gears, so it's a big no-no. And you can physically see why you can't mate up this pressure plate with this, because the collar just will not fit over this guide. So that definitely won't work. If you tried to force it, it will just eat up that guide. So that definitely won't work. Well, I told you earlier in the video I was going to show you a little hack that a lot of people know that you can do, but not everybody does. And I didn't know this until some years ago. But if you're like me, you have several little bits and pieces of VW stuff that can, you know, different pressure plates, early, late, whatever. I have more early style than I do the late. And let's just say that you have an early transmission and something craps out on it, and you know what, I want to go with a newer style, and or you find one on Marketplace that's newer, you know, well, what do I do? I've got this, you know, this old pressure plate. I guess I could go spend money and buy a new one. Well, that's a good idea, but you don't always have to do that. Kennedy, I said this was a Kennedy pressure plate, stage 2. They make, you know, stock ones and stage 1, that sort of thing, and they make rings on them that are easily removable. And by I say easily, they have a little wire strip on the back that is easily taken off. Those are awesome because you can take them on and take them off at will, however you want to do. But some of these old factory ones, and ones made by Brazil, and even some of the aftermarket today, sometimes you can get those to work. Now I'm going to show you what I mean. This guy right here has a ring, and you can pop that off. Now it's sort of a once done, it's it. You know, you can get it popped off. It ain't getting back on. So make sure you want to go that style. I have done that already to this guy right here, and I can use this pressure plate, which was originally an old style, on a later style throw-out bearing. So I'm going to show you what I did to do that. So if you got this old style pressure plate and you're wanting to go with the later style, like this Kennedy here, you can remove this. It's a once and done sort of thing, but it can be used if you need to. On the back is this little collar here. I'm going to zoom in on that. Now, this thing is a little difficult to get off, but it can be done. What you do is you can go in and take a screwdriver and pry. You got to do this a long time, but you pry off. I'm going to leave this one alone. I have already done it on this guy right here. Yep, see, so I just pried this guy off and started it, and then discarded the ring because we'll no longer use that, and voila, we have a pressure plate that matches this one. Now the inner diameter is slightly smaller than the Kennedy, but I'm going to prove to you that that doesn't really matter. So here you go. Here's the one that I modified. It will fit right in there and right on that bearing. Of course, I'm doing this one-handed, so it's hard to show, but you get the point. It can be used, and one little last thing I'll show you. Let's do a side-by-side comparison. Well, here we have them all lined up again. Hope you can see them on the video because I got my light maybe blocking that. But there, of course, would be the one with the ring, early style. Here's the one I modified, early style, that I modified, took the ring off. And there's the aftermarket. Let's do a quick little comparison here. Okay. There is the slightest little bit of difference. Let me use this and check the gap. Okay. It's barely half a millimeter. So very close. That's probably one thread on your adjustment on your wing nut for your clutch. So anyways, that will work. A lot of guys in the VW community do that. Not everybody knows that you can do it. It is best if you get the Kennedy style ring, because it's a lot easier to remove. It's a little bit cleaner fit. But manufacturers do that so that they can basically produce one pressure plate and make it for different applications. So anyways, I hope that has helped you a little bit on transmissions. We may do a video at some point, VW Transaxles through the ears, a little bit more specific content with that. But anyways, come across issues with your pressure plates and throw-out bearing and the way they mate, what fits together, hopefully this has found you and helped you out. So anyways, till Till next video, we'll see you.